Hi everyone, Logan Hertz with Hazeltine LLC, and today we're going to be interviewing Matt Seibert. Matt is the director of agent development for Life 180, which is Chris Kirkpatrick's agency. He is a coach to many insurance agents, many in the industry. And the reason why I wanted to bring Matt on the show is because I'm trying to get as many people into this industry as possible. I think we need more infinite banking agents, more whole life insurance agents out there, and I want to encourage my customers, my prospects, people who are doing infinite banking to consider getting into the industry, getting your license. Um, you don't even have to do this full time. It's a great side hustle. There's total freedom and flexibility for you to decide how deep you want to go into it. And so I'm trying to recruit people into the industry, not just sell people on whole life, but actually, I think some people would like to even take the next step because they believe in it strongly enough that they actually want to turn it into a business. So with that said, Matt, thanks for coming on the program. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, Logan. I remember watching your videos from afar, and it's just funny. Now I'm on your podcast here.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much for consuming my content. That's a huge, huge help to me. Really appreciate it. Um, so why don't you tell us just a little bit about your story, how you got into the business, and how you went from being a producer to more agent development?
Yeah, actually, I've been in the industry for about a little over a decade, and I've had my rounds with different types of agencies. I think my first experience was more in the probably they call it more of a MLM model, where if you've heard of companies like WFG, PHP, GFI, Primerica, those are under the MLM umbrella. I started in that industry for about 8 years. I walked away from that type of model, and then I ended up going into another model, was completely, brand new to me. It was more in the simplified issue type arena, because in the insurance industry, you have kind of like two departments here. You got advanced market, where you're more consulting and guiding people on financial concepts utilizing whole life or IULs or annuities and stuff like that. And then on the other side, it's going to be more like a simplified issue, where it's fast turnaround. You're selling primarily final expense, mortgage protection, term and stuff like that. And they're two complete different worlds. And when I was in the first one, I didn't know this other world exists. So when I got into this world, it was completely different. I'm glad I actually went through it, because it helped me understand how to work with agents at a different level. But when I looked at the both experiences, I walked away from both. I was able to build a seven-figure agency in both. And a lot of people, they ask me, what the heck is wrong with you? Why would you walk away? And I think for me, like, what I love about this industry is if you commit to it, right? And if you develop your skills, those skills can be never be taken away from you. And so the reason why I walked away from a seven-figure agency on both occasions was because I had the confidence I could do it again, right? And that's what I love about this industry is the skills here can pay you forever, and they can never be taken away from you. We always used to say you could drop me in any state, just give me a pen and paper, let me go and talk to people, and within a few days or so, I'll have some policy written and have some money coming in. So it's a really awesome industry, and I really have a passion to help people get into this industry. And to put in a context, because I was in those two models, where I come from is I want to teach people what to avoid. And unfortunately, this industry has a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of traps. A lot of these agencies are really focused on short-term gains, and they're focused on product pushing and high pressure sales. And that is a common thing that I see all across the board. And I actually advise against it. I'm not with that. I think the number one focus should be agent development and help agents become who they need to be so they can go out and succeed. And because all of these agencies are focused on short-term gains, this is why we have a high turnover. If you look at a lot of the studies and what people say, over 90% of agents quit. But I truly believe that number could be significantly lower, and that number doesn't really tell the full truth. So don't get discouraged if you see that 90%. I think you could totally beat that statistic. But I started as an agent. I produced, made a lot of sales, um, and there's a turning point that happened for me is when I started developing a team and I started passing on my knowledge to agents and training agents. My passion really started to grow with helping agents. And for me, it's like, okay, I love helping clients. I love, see their light turn on. I love helping clients kind of, guiding them and show them how to solve their problems. But for me, when I started working with agents, I got that feedback immediately. I saw that change in their life immediately, and I got to be a part of that. And for a lot of my clients, I would help them, but a lot of the stuff that I prepared them from, the product that I offered them, I'm not going to know till years later, how it actually helped them and what they did in those circumstances. So I only got to help them in the initial part of it. But with a lot of my agents, like I get to consistently every week, every month, every year, watch them grow and become a different person. And for me, I'm solving the same problem. I can go out, help clients and make an impact for people. But if I help one agent to do the same, I've impacted way more clients through one agent. And so for me, that has transitioned my purpose from helping clients to more agents. And really the battle for me is there's unfortunately a lot of companies out there that are taking advantage of agents simply because self-interest, they want to make more sales, they want to grow the company, and the focus is not on the agent and developing the agent. And so I decided to take on that role to combat and educate people that are getting into the industry, what to look out for, what it really takes to succeed, having clear expectations. And that has become my passion. And I ended up with a company called Life 180 because it was out of all the companies that I've researched and I've looked into, it was truly the only company that I saw that was focused on agent development, not product pushing. Because a lot of these other companies, right when you join, you could already feel it's like a sales force. And I have nothing against sales, but I think in this industry, there's some, moral conflicts when you're pushing sales right away from an agent that doesn't know the products, right? And Life 180 was really the only company that I've ever seen where it's not so much like a sales force, it's more like a university. And it's not about hitting quotas and numbers and leaderboards. It's about developing you with all the training that we have and everything like that. And I just never seen it done anywhere else. And it's just really amazing. And so I got myself in the position to be able to coach all the agents at Life 180. And we've been growing in pretty fast rate. And I think what's contributing to our growth is a lot of agents have these bad experiences at all these other companies. And they come over, they realize like, wow, this is what I expected in the industry. This is how it should be, not, somebody hounding me like, when are you going to make a sale and how many calls you have, how many dials you have. And they don't get that with us because we're truly invested in agents first. And we've been growing, we've been having a lot of fun and anything I could share to help your audience and people that are watching your show to kind of whether they're in a place they're thinking about getting into the industry or they never thought of it, anything I can share to kind of turn on that light, I'd be glad to offer any value.
Yeah, there's so many things I would say. First of all, before I switched over to this industry, I did consulting. So the idea of being a consultant came very naturally to me, right? When I was working with, big Fortune 500 companies in the past, we had no product. The
Right,
product was us. The product was we're coming in to see what your problems are and help you solve them, right? That's what we're doing. And it's much more about getting to know you, the company, first, so we can then solve your problems and help you get to the next level. And there is no product. The product ends up being our recommendations to improve your business. And I think it's a similar thing here, right? I don't think, I don't view myself as a life insurance salesman. That's
right,
not what I do. I'm a financial consultant. I am here to solve people's problems. And if at some point in the future I decide whole life is not the right way to do it or there are other things, I'll find another way to monetize my services,
right,
right? You know, and it could be any number of things. Now, like anything else, I think the more you specialize, the more you can help people. So
right,
what I do really is the infinite banking concept, which is a niche inside of the life insurance industry. But I agree with you that at least what we do, it's not a product sale. That's really not what it's about. Um, Now, the product sale might be how we make our money ultimately, but that's not how we add the value, and that's kind of the end of the process. But I think there are two things I think my audience might want to hear. The sort of person I'm thinking of primarily is actually not necessarily someone who's like, "Hey, I want to quit my full-time job and do this," which you can do that, and that's great.
Right.
That's what I did. So, but I think there's also a great way to have this as a side gig, side hustle. Some people will tell you can't do that. I don't think that's the right way to view it because some people will tell you, look, you got to like commit and be all in, or you're just wasting your time. I'm like, actually, I would say, if anything, it might be the opposite in the sense
Right.
that if you don't have a steady source of income,
Mhm.
it's going to be hard for you to set up your business the right way.
Right.
Okay. I love analogies.
Mhm.
And if I'm talking about this business, I use the analogy of whole life insurance. If you look at a whole life insurance policy and you only have a 2-year time horizon, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's not really that sort of vehicle. You have to look at it over a long time horizon, and there is an exponential curve.
Mhm.
Same thing I would say in this business, right? Um, I didn't really make much money in year one. In fact, I didn't really make much money until the end of year two is when I really started to make money. And I had no mentor, nobody helping me out. So maybe if I'd had Matt Seibert, I could have done better earlier on. But when I started making money was when I had it as a side gig. I had a full-time job and I had this as my side gig. So
Mhm.
that's the first point I would make is that you can do this as a side gig. You can try it out and see if it's for you. And the second point I want you to talk about is also setting realistic expectations. Because if you don't make any money in year one, that doesn't make you a failure in this business. That's kind of par for the course, right? Um, it doesn't mean you failed. It feels like failure if you're used to something else, but that's not really, the more money you want to make, the longer the time horizon to get there, right? And it's not going to be linear, right? So I wonder if you could address those 2 points. First of all, what does it look like if someone says, "I have this great corporate job, I don't wanna leave, but I'd like to do this as a side gig?" And then setting realistic expectations for what does it actually look like when you're in those early years where it can be really tough. Let's be honest, this is a tough business. I don't wanna gloss over that. I wanna set realistic expectations. It's not an easy business to be in.
For sure. All right. Well, that's a loaded question, but well, let me hit 2 points here. Let's say you're a client. Let's say you bought a whole life product. There's two types of clients. One that they're such in a good financial position, they don't need extra income. And then there's one where, man, if they can make an extra 1,000, 2,000 a month, that would be nice, right? They would not argue, right? And so for the client that doesn't need extra income, but they enjoy making a difference and helping people without the income, right? Without the monetary reward, but they enjoy helping people. I would argue it feels great that if you can teach other people things that you believe in. And the fact that you got whole life, right? That means you believe in how whole life works. You believe in the attributes, what it could do for you, right? And it's an amazing feeling that even without monetary reward for you to actually go out and pass on that knowledge to other people, I think that's awesome. And um, whether you need that money or not, if you got your license and were able to help other people through the process of something that you believed and you did it yourself, and you did make some extra on the side, if you don't need it, give it to charity, right? It's just a byproduct of going out and helping people. Now, if you're the client where, man, if an extra 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 a month can really make or break you or help you in a position in a better way, and getting your license, and of course, if you're a client, you believe in the product, it feels even so much better to go out and being able to earn an income by sharing what you believe and what you've done, right? You don't have to be the expert. You're just sharing your experience. Like, hey, this is what I got. This is why I got it. This is what I believe. This is what it does for me. And to be able to share that with other people and get paid for it, you're not gonna like your job anymore. that's just the reality. You're gonna think, and this is what happened to me. Like I was I was an entrepreneur and my business failed. I ended up going to University of Phoenix and I worked up the corporate ladder. That was my first experience working up the corporate ladder. And I think if you have a corporate job, the reality is this: change is inevitable. The chances that you're going to be at that corporate job for a long time is pretty slim. I'm
Mhm.
not saying it can't happen, right? And so the question is, when change happens, do you have a backup plan? Do you have another source of income? Do you have something that you could fall back on, right?
Mhm.
For me at University of Phoenix, it was so political. I just didn't like the corporate environment. I'm grateful I got recruited into this industry. And honestly, I just didn't know any. I looked at this industry just a way to make money. But as I looked at the problems that we were solving, and as I started helping my clients, I thought, oh my gosh, I would prefer to do this the rest of my life than work a corporate job, right? It's like I would get paid on, and it's not about money necessarily, but if we put things into context, I helped the client and I got paid more than 80 hours of my life, 80 hours of work,
Mhm.
and, when I put that two and two together, I thought, how can I do this every week? I would love to help people and get paid more than my corporate job and do this every week. How do I do it? And that's when I went to people that are a lot smarter than me. And I said, can you figure this out? And we figured it out. I walked away from my job completely at 2013. And I've been in the industry full time ever since. And so if you're working a job and you love your job, this is not something that you have to quit your job. But I guess I would ask you, would it be nice to earn extra income, but doing something that you believe in? Obviously, if you don't believe in it, that's a whole different story. And I
Mhm.
would argue it's an amazing feeling. And unfortunately, it will get in your head and you probably won't like your job anymore because it's so awesome when you can help people and helping them see what you see and believe what you believe and show them what you actually did and earn that kind of income. It is the most amazing feeling. And so, can you do this part time as it comes up? 100%. I actually tell a lot of people, I think everybody should have a life insurance license if you have a job, because there's so much uncertainty in the corporate world. There's so much that is out of your control, right? Look at COVID, what happened. Uh, when 2008, when I saw the market crash, I remember I was working at University of Phoenix. The amount of people in real estate and mortgage that came in getting a job was like, it was crazy, right? And so it's not even a job, but if you're in an industry where your industry is on cycles, like if you're in real estate or mortgage, why not come in and have a backup plan and get a license in something where we don't experience cycles? In fact, when we look at the statistics, the amount of citizens there are in the United States versus how many life insurance agents there are to service them, there's not even enough. It's not even comparable, right? So we're talking about an industry where it's guaranteed there's going to be business because unfortunately everybody's going to die. It's guaranteed, right? Two, there is endless supply. There's not enough agents in this country to service not even a quarter of amount of people. We haven't even gone through all the baby boomers yet. And then the millennials have surpassed the baby boomers. So you want to talk about endless supply of opportunity. It's just amazing, right? But then as far as getting a license, I think it's very simple, to be honest. Study for a week or two, get your license, and there's really hardly any maintenance. You might have to renew it every 2, 4 years, whatever. But other than that, to have that in your back pocket and then utilize your license when the opportunity comes, if you just did that, it'd be amazing, right? But I think what you'll find is if you did that, let's say you did it once a quarter, or let's say you did it once a year, you help somebody, you got your first deposit of your commission. I know it's going to get in people's minds and thinking like, wow, it felt amazing to help somebody like that and get paid like this. Because I do things at my job that I really don't like in a corporation that I'm not really passionate about, and I get paid much less. And so I think this industry can change your life because if you could get in a position where you can increase your income, that's going to change your life. But if you could get in a position where you can go full time, just experiencing the freedom, the control you have of your life, the freedom to do what you want when you want, not having a boss in a sense. I do think you do have a boss. It's just not the physical one. Your boss is now success and there's no negotiation. Success demands certain things of you. But I really love this industry. I think it can change anybody's financial situation, and it could give them something meaningful, purpose to go out and do and help people in a way that it's bigger than them. So if you're thinking about doing this, I would say yes, 100%. Get your license and then think about it later. Just get your license and then make sure you reach out to Logan. You partner with the right companies. You figure out what's, what how the companies work. We can totally help you disseminate. It's not, we're not going to be biased. Like, you need to come work with us. We'll actually go through and show you, like, here's the landscape of the industry. What do you like? Because you might be okay with the sales force, and that's fine. There's no good or bad. It's really based on your preference and what you want. But we can surely help you with that. So, did I hit the point with the side gig?
Yeah,
Did I miss
yeah.
anything?
Yes. Well, there of course that we could talk all day, but
Yeah.
um I think, me getting into the business, I had no mentor. I had
Mhm.
nobody helping me out. I was completely on my own. I had to figure everything out on my own.
Right.
Um, so I think having a mentor helps, but it has to be the right fit. And that's hard. Finding someone who's the right fit for you, because there are lots of very successful people out there who may not be the right fit for you.
Mhm.
Um, so because I at one point I did sort of sign up with a mentor and it wasn't the right fit. And so yes, it's good to have somebody coaching you, but it's got to be the right fit. And so don't ever sacrifice your independence in this business. I don't
Yeah,
don't ever do that. Don't ever do
for
that.
sure.
So there's the mentor, but there's also, I think, just setting realistic expectations,
Mhm.
right? Um, One of the most important things in this industry is just sheer longevity, just hanging around long enough. Like
Yeah.
whole life insurance, you can't rush the cash value growth. You can't
Mhm.
rush it. You know,
Yeah.
there's certain things that
Mhm.
you can get, even if you're not working a ton of hours, if you're just hanging around and
Yeah.
keeping your shingle out there, there's certain things you get 3 years in the business that you just can't get
Mhm.
in the first year. So how
Yeah.
would you work with someone and help them to have realistic expectations and not feel like a failure if they
Yeah.
haven't sold anything?
Well, I have a acronym that I go through that I think is interdependent, and they're attributes that everybody has to possess to be, successful in this industry. The first one, it starts with desire. Now, your outcome that you want has to match with your desire. Meaning, if you just want to do this part-time and, earn income whenever the opportunity presents itself, well, then your desire level doesn't have to be that high, right? But if your goal is to produce income where you're replacing your full-time job's income and make this your full-time gig, and now become from a W-2 employee to now becoming an entrepreneur, that transition will require a higher level of desire. And when I say desire, it can't be surface level. There has to be, why you want to do this, why you want to go full time. You have to have a clear vision of what you want and why you want it. So the first rule, if you want to succeed in this industry, the expectation is you have to have a high enough desire to actually have a chance. So when I work with agents, when I first meet an agent and they're debating whether they want to get into the industry, they don't know what I'm doing, but I'm asking them questions to figure out how they're thinking about things. But the only thing I'm doing is to gauge, do they have enough desire to win? Without the enough desire, all of that, everything else doesn't matter. You have to have a certain level of desire. So now that can be something that we're going to have to figure out, right? You might assume it might take a certain amount of desire that you feel. And as a coach, I might say, hey, look, your desire level needs to be a little bit up here if you want to win, right? Or there's been times where I had to bring down the desire because it can be a little too much, right? Now, desire is great, but here's the big problem with being successful in this industry. Desire is an emotion. And unfortunately, as important a why is not enough. And I know understanding your why is thrown out there a lot, but it's not enough because I've seen grown men with a why at home, family, kids, and they still don't do what's required. So why is not enough because it's all emotion based, right? So desire one. The second thing is attitude. And the attitude is required to succeed in this industry because your attitude has to be, in a sense, a discipline of how you interpret circumstances that are happening. You have to have a sense of discipline, meaning if trying to help somebody and you couldn't close a deal, you have to have a discipline and attitude and not get too high, not get too low. You got to stay right in the middle. And unfortunately, a lot of people have never been taught that. And so they get into this industry and they think, I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to be rich. And then, they fall flat on their face and they don't have the success that they have. So they're starting off of a high, then they drop all the way down low. That will get people to quit right away. That it can be so emotional for people that it could be a drag. So one of the things I teach is having the right attitude. You want to be neutral, not so positive, not so negative, right there in the middle. And then interpreting things right. A lot of people, they think that's a failure. Well, I love failure because failure is a shortcut to learning the lesson that I need to learn to be great. But most people don't look at failure that way, right? They look at it as themselves, like, oh, I'm the failure. And so I got to work with agents on their attitude. The third thing is the most important. It's commitment, because the importance of commitment is it removes emotion. The reason why a lot of agents don't succeed in this industry is they're running off of emotion. I'm motivated. I'm not motivated. I'm excited. I'm not excited. I have a lot of desire. I want to get it. And unfortunately, if you want to succeed at a high level, you have to remove emotion, because emotion is a great spark, but emotion is not going to take you where you need to be. So when that emotion runs out, it has to be replaced with commitment. And what a commitment is I'm going to do this regardless of how I feel. And without commitment, none of this matters. None of it matters. Your coaching doesn't matter. Your mentor doesn't matter. Your company doesn't matter. So those are the first three things I first analyze with agents. And then the fourth one, if those three things are aligned, the fourth one is your coachability. Are you coachable? This is a tough one, because coachability requires of an agent to have trust and faith in their coach. Without trust and faith, the agent will not be coachable. Meaning, an agent that trusts me and has faith in me will do what I suggest they should do because they trust and have faith that I know what I'm doing, and it'll yield the highest probability of success. When I suggest things to agents and they don't do what I say they should do, I could tell they just don't trust me. There's not a sense of trust or faith, or it's completely out of their comfort zone. But coachability, the last two, number 5 is resourcefulness, is what I really clearly define agents that are in the upper echelon. Agents are really resourceful, and meaning they will take a look at everything they have access to and turn nothing into something, right? That ability. Whereas the opposite of resourcefulness is almost like victimhood. Oh, I don't have anything. I can't do anything. Oh, I wish I had that, right? And I've seen agents that had all odds stacked against them, but they succeeded at a high level because they were extremely resourceful. I mean, and to put this in the context, right? So think about this. How we earn income in this industry is we got actually get in front of people, right? That's how we earn income, right? And obviously there's more to it, but it starts with you got to get in front of people. A resourceful agent will say, I got 6.3 million people in my state. How can I not win? And an agent that's not resourceful will say, man, I have nobody to talk to. What do I do? Is there leads, right? It's a different mindset, right? How bad do you want it? It goes back to your plan and desire. So the last one, 6, is you have to have a plan, right? And that plan, the reason why it's important, if you want to succeed in this industry, it has to be led with intention. You're doing things on purpose. And so in advance how you're going to do it and why you're going to do it that way, and what you're going to do if certain things happen, if certain things don't pan out, right? You actually plan things out. So those are the 6 attributes I think are interdependent that are required for you to succeed at a high level. And if you were to go through each one of those, I didn't talk about selling policies. I didn't talk about, sales strategy and overcoming objections and rebuttals. I didn't talk about any of that because these are the core fundamentals. It doesn't matter if you join a company that touts they have the highest comp or the highest strategy or sales proven automation. None of that matters if those six things are out of line. And so for me, that's the first thing I work on with agents is making those six things are at a level where you actually have a chance. And then as far as expectation goes, that's the expectation that I like to set with agents. Like, hey, look, if you want to win, these are the six things, and it has to be at these levels. And right now you're not it. And I'm not saying you can't improve it, and I'm not saying you can't increase it, but this is what we got to do. And at the end of the day, it's totally up to you. You can do what you want. And if you don't get to these levels, you're probably not going to experience the success that you want. And if that's okay with you, that's okay with me. But I think that's the clear expectation that needs to be, delivered to agents so they understand like it's not the company, it's not the coach, it's actually them a lot of the times. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think too for me, it's kind of I had this experience both when I was a full-time employee doing consulting and in my current line of work where or someone will call me out and say, "Oh yeah, Logan, he knows what he's doing. He's very successful." And I'm like, "Me? You talking to me? I
Yeah.
think you got me confused with somebody else. Like I don't know who you're talking to. Like
Right.
I'm just figuring stuff out, right? Because I think there's no magic formula. Like I don't have a magic formula where I just put these inputs in and then money comes out. I still feel like I have to figure stuff out, right? You don't ever get a magic formula, right? Things do get easier. Yes, they come more naturally, but still, there's no magic formula,
There's that.
right? So in this business, people succeed a lot of different ways. One of the things I found is that when I started being successful, I had to do exactly the opposite of what the experts would tell you you should be doing. And I think it's because now this is just my reading of it. It may not be this, that most of the advice that's out there is given by extroverts for extroverts. And I am the most introverted person that I know. And for me to succeed, I have to do it my way. Like it's not going to work if I try and go against the grain. So I
Mhm.
like to say contrarian things. So they say get outside of your comfort zone. I say that that's the opposite of the truth. What you need to do is find your comfort zone and stay in it. When you find that the method, the thing, the mission that makes you successful, it's going to feel very natural.
Mhm.
Your interactions with your clients, your conversations will be very natural. Nothing will feel forced. If it feels forced, there's something wrong, right? There's something wrong. And that's where it goes back to finding the right mentor. I know people in this business I have a lot of respect for. I could never do it their way. We're completely different. It would never work,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, go ahead.
One of the things you said was spot on. I said earlier, get out of your comfort zone or something to that. What I usually say is it's not getting out of your comfort zone, it's expanding your comfort zone. But when I work with agents, one of the things that I do is I help them grow. But like you said, and you're the first person I've actually ever heard say it. What I do is I keep agents in their comfort zone and have them slowly expand it. And where a lot of mentors fail is they're trying to immediately pull them out of their comfort zone, thinking like once they see it's not scary, they'll do it. I've seen that work. Here's the problem with it. You pull a person that you pull them out of their comfort zone. They make them do something that like, oh my gosh, I was afraid to do it, but they did it, right? Now you're excited. Oh, good job. Right? And then here's what happens. They go back home and that excitement starts turning into anxiety. Oh my gosh, I got to do that again. And that's why that whole process, I've seen it work very small percentage of the time. And you might think it's a valid way of helping people increase their belief by just throwing them in the fire. And I've seen it work with a few people, but majority of people, what happens is there is a temporary excitement because like, wow, I did it. And everybody's excited for you. But it's when they're alone, away from you, it starts eating them away. and they don't want to go through that again, and they disappear and agents quit. It's funny. So you gotta, like you're saying, I try to keep agents within their comfort zone and then slowly help them expand as their belief increases, and they have a different perspective.
Yeah, and there's no one right or wrong way. It's
Right.
funny because when you talk to, in this industry, sometimes you talk to marketing people and salespeople because maybe you want to hire them, maybe you want to get advice from them. And these are supposed to be like marketing people are supposed to be super creative, right? But then they just start giving you this dogma, like you got to do this and then this
Mhm.
and then this, and it has to be this way, right? And every year the dogma changes. But it's like I thought this was like a creative process, and then you're just giving me rules, like you must
Mhm.
do this, 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 this.
Yeah,
And I think what they're trying to do is make you feel insecure, so you feel like you need to hire them, like you
probably.
need them. And it's like there's no one that's one of the
Yeah,
beautiful things about this business. It is very hard,
yeah.
but there's no one right or wrong way to do it. Like the
Mhm.
way that I have done it, and Peter Nelson, who's been on my show many times, who's very successful, we have completely opposite approaches. I
Yeah,
mean, there's nothing more different about our approaches. I would have failed miserably if I tried to do it the Peter Nelson way, and
right.
he would fail miserably if he tried to do it my way.
Yeah,
Right? You have to do what comes naturally to you, and you can adapt, and learn from other people, but ultimately you got to find your own style, right?
yeah. You have to be authentic for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about how hard it is, because again, I think another thing that's important is just to set realistic expectations, right? You can make a lot of money in this business, and you can make a lot of money in year one. It's possible,
Yeah,
but I think it's better to just set realistic expectations, not to quell people's excitement, but just say, hey, this is the way this business works, right? And so, if you talk to 100 people and 99 of them say no, that might not be failure, right? Um, so how would you, if you're working with a new agent, how would you help set realistic expectations so they don't get discouraged when it doesn't come quickly? Because it won't. It won't,
yeah.
right?
I mean, it's not so much at that point, it's not so much setting the right expectations, it's understanding how the agent interprets things that they experience.
Okay.
Because I don't believe this industry is hard. I think it's hard because how we interpret things. But if as you gain experience in this industry, you don't think it's as hard because you realize how you interpret certain things was just incorrect perspective, right? So for me, obviously, you're going to get rejection. I think one of the things that a lot of people are not used to, because a lot of people coming into this industry, their whole habits and idea of earning income for most people coming into this industry is in a corporate environment from an employee, right? So when you're an employee, you have a different mindset. You have different expectations. You have this program built in where it's like, I do work and I get paid right away. I do work and I get paid right away. I don't do things off of my job. When I clock out, I don't work. I'm off. I get to go home, right? I don't know how many times at 5 o'clock, all my enrollment counselors at University of Phoenix, they'll just wait. And then when it hits 5 o'clock, boom, log out. Nope. Hey, can you do this? Nope. I'm off. Right. We get programmed on like, don't do things unless you're getting paid for. And so now you're coming into an environment, you're doing a lot of things you're not getting paid for yet, right? You're getting it's a whole different dynamic. It's more delayed gratification where it's like your outcome is contingent upon your knowledge and your skills, but developing your knowledge and skills is not, there's no monetary reward, right? And so that's a key thing that I talk with a lot of agents is shifting from a W-2 mindset to an entrepreneur. That is very important that I talk about, like that shift, how you look at things different. We don't get paid right away, we get paid later, right? And there's more work you're gonna have to probably put in on the front end. It's like a whole life, right? All the price you're gonna have to pay is front loaded on the front end, but all the benefits are delivered on the back end. So for me, perspective is really important. Perspective is the best type of expectation you can work with agents, and then follow through just normal expectations like, hey, look, if you're putting in 3 hours a week, don't you're not making six figures, right? And if you're telling me I want to make six figures, you're going to be working more than any corporate job that you ever have, and it's going to feel weird, right? So my expectations start with what the agent goal is. So if an agent comes in, the first thing I try to figure out, okay, what are you trying to accomplish? You want to do a side gig or you want to go full time? You want to create an agency and agents and how big you want to how big you want to build it. So once I understand that, then I know the expectations like, hey, look, this is basically what it's going to take. And if you don't like that, then we're going to have to level down. If you can handle it, maybe we could level up. Maybe you're thinking too small. Maybe we can go bigger, right? But yeah, expectations, it's really, I think the challenge for a lot of agents coming in here, the way you view success and failure is going to be flipped on its head. It's going to be completely different, right? Because for me, success is taking action. It's not the outcome. Success is the process, never the outcome. The outcome is just the signal that tells us whether your action was effective or not, right? And that we can change that. And so I actually go through a process here is in this business, here's kind of the expectation. This is the process that you're going to have to go through over and over and over and over again. Every year you're in this industry. So the first thing is you need education, right? You got to get educated on the product and everything that you're going to do. That's one. Two is preparation. How do we take this education and how are we going to intend to use this education to help us move forward? Three, it's application. So now we got educated. We created a plan on how we're going to take what we're educated on. Now we're going to apply it. Four is evaluation. So now we're going to evaluate how was the application of what I've learned, right? And then five is the most important, repeat. And that's what you just do over and over and over again. And this is where a lot of agents struggle. They get the education, they never go to application. Or they get the education, they do the application. Here's the most important part. They never do the evaluation and they never succeed. And they think it's because of the company. They think it's something outside of them, but it's because they didn't evaluate their application of their knowledge and they'll just never grow. And so they think that it's not, oh, this sucks. This industry doesn't work or this company doesn't work. It's the evaluation where most agents run away from because that's the time where somebody's going to look at you, right? And that's the time where there's going to be a sense of judgment. Oh man, I don't want to feel inadequate, right? And that's the common place where most agents, you don't hear from them. So I have agents that um they want to win more than how they feel. And they'll go on an appointment and they'll record their appointment and they'll meet with me and I'll comb through that entire recording and I'll show them what they can change. And man, the agents that actually do it, they get so much. And I feel for the agents that don't do it because how are you ever going to improve? You're going to keep on saying the same thing that gets the same result and you're just going to stay where you're at, right? And for the agents that I get to listen to the recording, it's so much that I change in one recording. It is mind-boggling. And they're looking at me like, I can't even believe agents don't do this. You usually, almost every agent, within the first 5 minutes, we're talking about 10 things. And a lot of agents, I can't even get past the first 5 minutes. Think about it. The first 5 minutes. I can't even get past the first 5 minutes. I say, hey, look, I don't even want to listen to the rest of the recording because if the first 5 minutes, if we don't get this straight, all the other stuff doesn't matter. I mean, think about how crazy that is, right?
So,
It's very rare that I can go through a whole call, which is
yeah,
wow.
feedback
Yeah.
definitely is really important. That was something I learned as a consultant too. And you're right, because when you're in a W-2 job, there's a formal feedback loop that you cannot escape. And it can be painful, but that's how you grow, right?
Yeah.
In this industry, I mean, if you don't want feedback, you don't have to get it.
Yeah.
As they say, the good news is you have no boss.
Right.
The bad news is you have no boss,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I want to zero in on one thing because
Yeah.
Tom Wheelwright, who you may know, wrote he's on Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad team. He's all about taxes. He wrote a book, I think it's titled "Other People Pay Taxes So You Don't Have to,"
Right. Yeah.
and he's a Mormon.
Yeah.
And he said the biggest thing that Mormonism taught him in preparing him to be a successful entrepreneur is how to handle rejection.
Mhm.
Because he did his 2-year mission trip,
Yeah.
right? Where he's going door to door and getting rejected, probably getting called nasty names,
Mhm.
probably getting yelled at. I know I've experienced that. I mean, you get called some pretty horrendous names when
Mhm.
you try to help protect widows and orphans. I didn't realize I was a criminal for trying to protect widows and orphans, but apparently I'm just a scummy scam artist,
Yeah.
and these people know this within 5 seconds. So let's talk about handling rejection, because I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
one of the biggest things that keeps people from succeeding, right? So how do you help agents that are brand new, that maybe haven't been in a sales role before, to handle rejection? Because that can be brutal, right?
Mhm. Well, rejection and not being able to handle that, it just really comes down to the frame, like the perspective. If you can't handle rejection, you think it's a personal attack on you. And so your ego comes in self-defense, like, whoa, there's something, red alert, what's going on? And when you look at it like it's an attack on you, now it drags down to all the trauma that you had as a kid. I mean, it just pulls you down, right? And that's really the big problem because as we grow up, no one really teaches us like how to look at rejection. Like what is rejection? Are they rejecting you or what is being rejected? Or what's going on? And the reason why a lot of people that like the story that you said, he was going through and on his mission and he got a lot of rejections. The reason why when you go through a lot of rejections after time, it doesn't affect you as much is because you come to that realization it's actually not about you. And so what I realized learning in like kind of psychology, and for me, I was always fascinated with psychology because I really wanted to understand what made people tick, right? And come to find what I realized is when people are mad and they lash out at you, they're sick. I'm not saying they're sick, but it's actually they're the ones with the problem, not you. And so
Right.
I've shifted and I've now when I realized that and I read some studies on how people lash out on people, it makes them feel good and rise them up and they probably had trauma. Now it's crazy. I got to a point where when I see people yelling at me and all that, all I could think in my mind, and I smile and I'm thinking, "Oh man, I wish I could help you, buddy.
Yeah.
God, you must have went through
You
some
feel sorry
trauma.
for him. Yeah, you feel sorry
Man,
for him.
that's so
Yeah.
unfortunate." Right. And, because I follow Stoicism and this really helps me with too. And one of the key things in Stoicism, it how people treat you has no significance. It's you should treat people the right way no matter what, because they're ignorant. It's a sense of ignorance. If they truly knew what was right and what was wrong, they wouldn't treat you like that. So it is a sense of ignorance because in their mind, they truly believe lashing out on you is actually okay. And it's a form of ignorance. So all I could think about
It's
is
not
like,
only okay, it's
it's,
virtuous to
yeah,
them. Like
yeah, for sure. And so
they're
I
punishing a
just step back.
criminal,
I'm like,
you
you're
know?
just ignorant. And for me, it helps me because I really can't get mad at ignorant people. You're just ignorant. Like you just haven't been taught. Like poor thing, right? And so for me, when I work with agents, it takes a minute. And I'm not going to say just because I went through that and agent's like, oh, okay, I'm ready to take on some no's, right? But it helps because at least with having that discussion and the awareness over time, it will speed up the things, right? And then there's that one part, right? The emotional, how do you handle it emotionally when you get a rejection? The second part is a lot of agents where they struggle is they don't actually know how to reduce rejections. And how do I reduce these? And I love rejections. Like when agents come to me and say, man, I got rejected. Great. Awesome. I love it. And they're looking at me like, what's wrong with you? I say, okay, this is fantastic. What did you say and how did you say it? And they tell me, I'm like, oh, this is great. A rejection is perfect because it's a cheat code telling you we got to fix something. And so it's actually helping us move faster. Right. So now I go through the conversation. I said, this is why I got the rejection. Remove this, add this, and say it like this. And then what you'll notice, they'll get less rejections. So rejections are just signs, the universe or God or whatever you want to say, is just saying, hey, look, do it differently next time. Oh, perfect. Right. And so for me, when I got that, I used to do challenges for my agents. I'll give you $1,000 if you can go give me 100 no's, like in this week. And they would go out there and try to hit 100 no's and they couldn't even get it. And what they realize is not everybody's going to say no, right? It's just a volume game, right? And the ones that said no, they learned so much from it. Like, oh, well, how did you say that made them say no? And what did you learn? Well, after my first 20 no's, I realized that wasn't working. So I kind of started saying it like this, and I started getting yeses. I said, perfect. So it's like the very thing that we run away from. And it's a gift. It's such a gift to get rejection. It's a gift because it's like a sign. It tells you, hey, we got to change something, right? And then you take it to somebody that's smarter than you, like that knows more, and say, hey, look, this is what happened. How would you change it? And it moves you faster. So for me, rejection is just how you look at it. And I think this is where a lot of mentors and coaches fail, is what I just said. They don't understand how to communicate that to agents. They just say, what are you saying? Right. They don't, most leaders in this industry, what I realize, have no business coaching agents. And one of the fallacies in this industry, and it's sickening, is they'll take a top performer and build a team around a top performer because, well, the top performer knows what they're doing, right? He could teach other people to become top performers. It is the biggest mistake. How do I know that? Look at Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan, one of the top basketball players of our time, right? His coach, Phil Jackson, was arguably the best coach of our time, right? Phil Jackson was never a good basketball player, but he knew the game inside and out. And when Michael Jordan left the Bulls and he took on a team, he owned a team, right? Like he was the coach. They sucked. Like how do we get one of the top basketball players not able to help a basketball players actually perform at a high level? How is that
Yeah,
possible? But
it's a
Phil
different skill
Jackson
set.
was
It's a
able to,
different skill
right?
set.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly what you said. They're two different skill sets. So some people have the skill set to be able to communicate and coach people, and some people don't. And it has nothing to do with performance. And that's what I see in this industry. There's a lot of people in leadership that have teams that have no business being in leadership. And it's really unfortunate. I mean, it makes my business easier because I'm getting all the agents coming to me. So, but it's really sad.
Yeah, no, you see the same thing in the working world where people get promoted up the ranks
Mhm,
because let's say he's a really good software developer.
mhm.
Well, that doesn't mean he's going to be a good manager.
Right,
That's a different skill set. Managing people is different from, delivering software. There might be someone who doesn't know anything about software, but you can teach him enough
right,
and he can manage people who might actually be better.
right,
Um, but it's just a comfortable thing, right? Because it's like, oh, that's just a natural next step for that person, not realizing, well, that's a completely different skill set, right?
right.
That's totally different. And then also, I think this sort of industry, I think, is ideal for solopreneurs, right? And if you're a solopreneur, by definition, you're a solopreneur. And that's the other beautiful thing about this industry too, is there's no one path upward. Matt Seibert decided to be coaching agents, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
There are very successful people in this industry who are still solopreneurs and they love it,
Mhm.
right? Some like Chris Kirkpatrick start their own agency, right?
Right,
Some graduate to other things. There's no one path forward, right? So you don't ever have to do something you don't really particularly want to do. Because some
right.
people, I think most people in this industry don't want to coach other agents.
Yeah. Oh, a
That's
lot
that's
don't.
not why they got into the industry.
A lot actually don't. They don't have the patience for it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Matt. Well, is there anything you want to leave our audience with in closing?
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about getting into the industry and you would like to pick my brain and totally open book, you can email me at matt@life180.com. We can set up an appointment. I'd be glad to kind of give you an overview of the industry, point you in the right direction. If you have certain companies you're thinking about, I probably already heard about them, and I can probably tell you what to expect in advance because they're probably not going to tell you. But yeah, I'm an open book. Feel free to reach out, matt@life180.com. Visit our YouTube channel. You get a good sense of what we do and how we help people.
Yep. We'll put links in
But
the description for
yeah,
you
for
guys to
sure.
get in touch with Matt.
And thank you for having me on the show, Logan. It's been fun.
Yep. Thanks so much for your time, everyone. This was Matt Seibert of Life 180. Thank you so much for your time, Matt.
Anytime.